Here's the next bit from the story of Elisha. This is chapter 6. Now there's a small incident that happens, and I would urge you to read it yourself. It's good. Because Elisha has there's these big things, this big story that goes on, and it usually involves the royalty and other countries and fighting and big national stuff. And then you have kind of smaller, I guess, medium-sized stories, like we just heard, the one of Naaman and the Shunammite woman. She's good. Those kind of quite involved. And then you have these kind of another layer of story, which is these little miracles. And there's things like the purifying the water and purifying the stew. And there's all these other little miracles seem to happen. Elisha kind of sheds miracles as he goes along. These things just pop off as he's walking along, and it's fascinating. And I don't know what to make of some of these smaller ones. They're kind of showing how Elisha was a man of God. He was a prophet. He was someone who acted on God's behalf and showed God's power. So these little incidents are just kind of oh, by the way, here's another amazing thing I've just done. I mean, that's not Elisha saying that. That's me reflecting on the story. Anyway, it's great stuff. So read 2 Kings 6. The part of the story I'd like us just to look at fairly briefly is the king of Syria is at war with Israel. Yes, again. And after they'd just become friends, Elisha's just cured, or God has through Elisha, Naaman of his skin disease. And now what's happening? Oh, they're at war again. I mean, that is ungrateful. So they're at war with Syria. And whenever the Syrian army is about to do something, the Israelites know about it. Because Elisha sends warnings to the king of Israel, says they're going to be there now, or now they're going to be over there. And the Syrian king gets really, really peed off, to quote the original Hebrew. That's not the original Hebrew, but just for dramatic effect. Gets really annoyed, and he's basically saying, have we got a spy here? Who's telling them what's going on and where we are and what's happening? Who is it? And they say, no one is, Your Majesty. It's the prophet Elisha. He can see what's going on. He even knows what's going on in the privacy of your own room. Now, this is paranormal. Ooh, yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a moment. So Elisha can see what's going on. Well, in fact, we talked about it just now, didn't we? Sorry, I confused myself there. It's because I've had coffee in between these two talks I'm doing. So Elisha knows what's going on even when he's not around. He knows things. So the king of Syria says, well, go and find him and we'll have him. We'll capture him. So he gets told where Elisha is, which happens to be a place called Dothan. I don't know if that's of any significance. And he sends a squadron out to get him. And they reach the town of Dothan at night, and they surround the town. And early the next morning, Elisha's servant gets up. I don't know if this is Gehazi or not. I can't remember if he drops out. We'll find out in part 4. They see that the Syrian troops have surrounded the city. They're all around. And they're like, we're doomed. There's nothing we can do. Look, they've got us. We're trapped. There is no escape. We should leave it at that, shouldn't we say? Come back next week to find out what happens. But don't be afraid, says Elisha. We've got more people on our side than they have on their side. And the servants are like. So Elisha prays that they will see what's going on. And Elisha's servant looks up and he looks around and all over the hillside and on the levels and in the roads all around the town. The hillsides are covered with horses and chariots of fire. If you read on, you see how the army is defeated. But you can do that. And that is also is miraculous, and also surprisingly, for the Old Testament, surprisingly merciful. So imagine that. Syria, the same Syria that Naaman was from, at war again. Now, did you spot the paranormal then? Well, you did, because I said about it. You got the paranormal in the last story, where Elisha says, I was there. You were having this call. I saw you with that man and the chariot. I saw it. I was there in spirit. It's a paranormal thing. Yeah, it's paranormal year with us, so it's kind of interesting. Now, I won't go into the shenanigans of Gehazi too much from the last one, but Gehazi ends up in the last one with this disease that, in a sense, I'm trying to find a way of expressing it. Basically, Gehazi the servant has interfered, hasn't he, with what's going on. And he ends up with the thing that's been sorted out. Because he's interfered with it, got in the way of it, it manifests in his life. So he has that disease. And here again, kind of linked, this is where the link is. You have Elisha knowing what's going on. He knows where the Syrian army is and what it's doing. Elisha has this kind of ability to see what's going on. But for this part of the story, I'm not going to dwell on that. I think that's just an intriguing train of thought. I'd like us to think about the image. And then when I've finished talking, I will finish talking eventually, I'd like to spend a bit of time in prayer without me telling you what to do or what to think. But let this image guide you into a few moments of prayer at the end of this story. Because imagine this, you're surrounded. And it looks like there is no escape. The enemy is literally at the door. Well, city gates. There's a warm breeze blowing over the hills, and the last light of the sun is fading. Overnight, the enemy arrive. Now, you don't know when they're going to attack, but you know that you haven't got much of a chance. You're alone and you're powerless. In the face of such might, there is nothing that you can do. But you look out and you look harder and you see a different reality. You see something that's more real than this reality. You see a deeper truth that goes deeper than what our eyes can see. And you see that you have an army there as well. Horses and chariots of fire are lined up all around you to defend you. And that is a deeper truth than all the other forces that are lined up against us. Our health, the state of the world, our enemies, our international enemies even. They do have power, but they don't have ultimate and eternal power, because we are surrounded by the horses and the chariots of God. And they're on fire. Ready to defend us and ready to defend you. Nothing can really destroy us. No one can totally bring you down. In the words of Paul, who wrote some 900 years later, He said this: we who have this spiritual treasure are like common clay pots, in order to show that the supreme power belongs to God, not to us. We are often troubled, but not crushed, sometimes in doubt, but never in despair. There are many enemies, but we are never without a friend. And though badly hurt at times, we are not destroyed. At all times we carry in our mortal bodies the death of Jesus, so that his life also may be seen in our bodies. Throughout our lives we're always in danger of death for Jesus' sake, in order that his life may be seen in this mortal body of ours. This means that death is at work in us, but life is at work in you. Remember that. You're surrounded by the horses and the chariots of God, our mighty defender. Amen.